こんにちは。日本国際紛争解決センター JIDRC 東京のオープニングセレモニー、および仲裁の日記念行事を開始いたします。私、JIDRC 副理事長の出井直樹が本日の司会進行を務めます。よろしくお願いいたします。海外からの参加者も多いので、これからは司会は原則英語でやらせていただきます。Good afternoon.My name is Naoki Dei, Vice President of the Japan International Dispute Resolution Center, JIDRC. Welcome to the opening ceremony of JIDRC Tokyo. This event is organized and hosted by the Ministry of Justice of Japan, Japan Federation of Bar Association, JFBA,Japan Association of Arbitrators, JAA, and JIDRC, and is a joint event with JAA's Japan Arbitration Day. This event had originally been scheduled for March this year, but was postponed until today due to the COVID-19 situation. This event is offered on webinar mode.I am standing in the main hearing room of JIDRC Tokyo. Majority of the speakers today are here in this room, and some of the speakers will join from abroad through video conferencing system. Before starting, may I call your attention to several housekeeping matters. The whole ceremony and the panel discussion will be provided with English-Japanese simultaneous interpretation service. Participants are asked to select the language button on Zoom. This event will be video recorded by the hosts and may later be made public. However, the participants are asked to refrain from from recording or capturing a shot.We cannot provide data for the slides and other materials used in this event. Problems with Zoom function or internet connectivity, if any, should be addressed to the Zoom Help Center. The host cannot help. Sorry. Final disclaimer. This is a webinar.So, in case there is a disruption of whatever reason, and such disruption continues for 10 minutes or more, this event may need to be discontinued at that stage. This is the fate of the webinar, and hope that will not happen. So far housekeeping. Now, Professor Yoshimitsu Aoyama, President of Japan International Dispute Resolution Center, will make an opening remark. Aoyama Sensei, please.
理事長の青山義光です。本日は海外からのたくさんの参加者もいらっしゃいますので、私も英語でご挨拶させていただきます。Mr. of Justice, Ms. Yoko Kamikawa, former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Mr. Itsuro Terada, distinguished all guests related to the international arbitration and mediation institutions and its procedures. I would like to express my sincere gratitude for your joining the opening ceremony of the Japan International Dispute Resolution Center in Tokyo today.I am Yoshimitsu Aoyama, President of the Japan International Dispute Resolution Center, at the same time the Professor Emeritus of the University of Tokyo Faculty of Law. I am deeply honored to have a wonderful opportunity to greet you at first to the opening ceremony. The Japan International Dispute Resolution Center, known as JIDRC, was established in February 2018 as an agency to contribute to the further activation of international arbitration and mediation in Japan. I would like to emphasize that JIDRC is not an arbitration institution. Our main business is to provide facility as a hearing venue in the case where domestic and overseas arbitration and mediation institutions perform hearings for those proceedings. We have provided affordable, exclusive facilities in Tokyo, Toranomon, and Osaka Nakanoshima, which are easily accessible from any city in the world and safe to stay. JIDRC operates the facilities, providing necessary equipment and staff so that all related parties involved in arbitration and mediation procedure are able to find satisfaction in the term of convenience of use. Our dream is that JIDRC could become an international hub, important hub for international arbitration and mediation around the world. Our dream is that JIDR could gain global trust and good reputation in the field of arbitration and mediation through the smooth and efficient progression of proceedings involving Japan as the seat of arbitration and mediation or hearing venue, as well as through the uninterrupted and stable recognition and enforcement of the arbitral award and the settlement agreement as outcomes of the resolution in any country. That is just our dream. We are taking that just step today to make that dream come true. Thank you for your time and attention. ありがとうございました。
Thank you. Yes, I would like to again mention the interpretation service. Participants are asked to push the language button on the Zoom, so that you can hear the language you'd like to hear. Okay, one more opening remark will be provided by Mr. Akira Kawamura, President of Japan Association of Arbitrators. Kawamura Sensei, please.
Thank you, Idei-san. Minister of Justice, former Chief Justice, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for so many of you attending to this ceremony today by person or through the internet remote conference system from throughout the world. Although COVID-19 pandemic is still hardship in many places in the world, I am proud of being a part of this ceremony as the President of Japan Association of Arbitrators, JAA, because since its formation in 2003, JAA has been most vigorously and enthusiastically seeking for establishing the world's most advanced international arbitration center in Japan. We believe that the International Commercial Dispute Resolution Facility is indispensable for the healthy growth of international economy in the region. As Professor Aoyama said, our dream came true. Thanks to the wise leadership of the Minister Kamikawa, now we have a beautiful International Dispute Resolution Center here. The next step we must direct would be 1. Legal education to grow arbitration professionals. 2. Promotion of international arbitration cases. And 3. Arbitration law reform, including the introduction of the Singapore Convention. JAA has already been working on this agenda. I wish to take this opportunity to humbly request for your support to JAA and JIDRC for achieving this agenda. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kawamura Sensei. Now we would like to have the guests to make their speeches. First, we wish to have a word from Ms. Yoko Kamikawa, Minister of Justice. Her Excellency, please.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, everyone. I am Yoko Kamikawa, the Minister of Justice of Japan. I'm pleased to welcome you today and would like to make few remarks on the opening ceremony of the Japan International Dispute Resolution Center, Tokyo, and the Japan Arbitration Day commemorative event. First of all, I would like to offer my heartfelt congratulations to the JIDRC Tokyo, which opened in March this year. I am very pleased that today's opening ceremony, co-hosted by the JIDRC, the Japan Federation of Bar Associations, and the Japan Association of Arbitration, is being held despite the spread of COVID-19. Especially, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to those who contribute the ceremony from foreign distinguished arbitration centers such as ICC, ICSID, and SIAC. I am confident that their contribution will make this ceremony valuable. Also, I would like to thank to all who cooperated to prepare for this event. Especially, I thank President Aoyama and Mr. Kawamura, President of the JAA, who dedicated themselves to organize this memorable event. The outbreak of COVID-19 has had a severe impact on the international community and the global economy. In the middle of the global economic crisis, more international disputes are likely to occur. If the disputes would not be solved urgently, companies could be bankrupt due to the severe financial problems. This would cause a huge impact on the global economy and individual persons who live this global society. In this regard, international arbitration must play a key role to solve these issues. I must say that the international arbitration will play an important legal infrastructure to respond appropriately to such disputes and to support smooth economic activities. The Ministry of Justice has been promoting an initiative which I named Shiho Gaiko, in English, Justice Affairs Diplomacy. This initiative, soft power, put Japan's strategic multilateral approach. We promote its sophisticated, fair, and stable legal infrastructure to share best practices in the field of legal affairs beyond the national border. With the dawning of the new decade, I've designated this year as the inaugural year of Justice Affairs Diplomacy. Promoting international arbitration is one of the key strategic pillars of Shiho Gaiko. It is necessary to develop the infrastructure for international arbitration so that Japan can be recognized as a hub for cross-border dispute resolution in Asia, and so that Japan's legal experts can play a more active role. Last month, I was reappointed as Minister of Justice. During my previous terms, I visited international arbitration centers in different countries and exchanged views with relevant parties. I was really impressed by their activities, as all of these facilities fully equipped with the sophisticated and modern technology, and every staff member had strong motivation to work. Then I became a chairperson of the LDP's Research Commission on the Judiciary System. I made several proposals to the government to use a multilateral approach to promote international arbitration in Japan, with an expectation for the JIDRC to be a hub with a strong cooperation with these international arbitration centers. I think the JIDRC got off to a promoting start than ever, because they already have agreed 6 MOUs with foreign distinguished international arbitration centers. Actually, the JIDRC was established during my previous term. Since then, they have worked very hard to promote international arbitration in Japan, including a dedicated facility, education and trainings, and the promotion of international arbitration both in Japan and abroad. Now, I would like to highlight the importance of the education and training for younger generation. Empowering younger generations is our primary responsibility, and I am certain that they will play a key role in the future if they receive appropriate opportunities. I hope that the JIDRC will provide good opportunities about training or education for the younger generations. The JIDRC Tokyo that opened in March this year used advanced technology such as remote hearings. Thanks to this technology, arbitration can proceed smoothly during the current COVID-19 pandemic and even after. I hope that the JIDRC keeping working passionately to be the regional hub for international arbitration in Asia. The Ministry of Justice will continue to work hard to promote international arbitration in Japan, as Japan is keen to play a key role in settling disputes within the region. I also wish for greater usage of the JIDRC Tokyo to resolve disputes in international commerce, which will lead to further development of Japan's society and its economy. Lastly, I wish again to congratulate the JIDRC on the successful opening in Tokyo. Thank you very much.
大臣ありがとうございました。Thank you, Her Excellency. Next guest is Mr. Kazuhiko Bando, President of the Japan Commercial Arbitration Association. Mr. Bando, please.
So, on behalf of the JCA, I would like to extend my congratulations on the completion of the wonderful facility here in Toranomon and the smooth operation of JIDRC Tokyo. I would also like to express my sincere thanks for the support by the Minister of Justice, Ms. Kamikawa, and the people of the Ministry of Justice, the President of JIDRC, Mr. Aoyama, Vice President Mr. Idei, and the Secretary General, Professor Hayakawa, and everyone for opening of JIDRC Tokyo. JIDRC is now ready to start its operation for promoting arbitration in Japan. This is a very encouraging development for the JCA as a Japan-based international commercial arbitration institution. One of their measures to promote arbitration in Japan is to appeal to non-Japanese companies to choose Japan as the seat of arbitration. But considering the economic scale and the industrial structure of Japan, I think the foremost is to appeal to Japanese companies to make more use of arbitration. In this regard, we have many challenges at present. For example, in 2018, 2 years ago, the total number of international arbitration cases newly filed with 7 major arbitration institutions, including ICC and SIAC, was about 3,000. From the data available to us, only about 50 Japanese companies were parties to these 3,000 cases. If the cases of JCA were added on, the number of Japanese users would just add up to 70, which is still far too small given the substantial weight that Japanese companies have in the global economy. Speaking from a different perspective, in the past 7 years, 25%, a quarter of the arbitration cases filed with the JCA were a small amount dispute within less than 50 million yen, and 9 of them are only 10 million. Generally speaking, our litigation doesn't work well for such small amount dispute because it's simply costly. This data shows that arbitration is a viable and proactive tool not only for big companies like Sogo Shosha, but also for many Japanese SMEs doing international business. Against this backdrop, our first priority is to demonstrate cogently to Japanese companies unfamiliar with arbitration how arbitration works, and in particular, what advantages it has over litigation, and to encourage them to actually take advantage of it. These days, companies engaging in international business are widely spread in Japan. It will be a real challenge to reach out to these companies by means completely different from short messages in TV commercials. Therefore, however, We believe that is the crucial step we should take now to develop arbitration market in Japan and make it more attractive market for many Japanese talented young lawyers to step in. To this end, we have been endeavoring with their support from public organizations such as JIDRC and JFC, as well as chambers of commerce and industry. And now, it's very encouraging to have the JIDRC as our partner, which shares the same goal of promoting arbitration in Japan. Thank you very much for your time today, and I wish the JIDRC all the best for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bando. These two remarks, I think, included the agenda comprehensively, the agenda which we need to deal with in the future, in the near future. Okay, thank you very much. Now, Minister of Justice will excuse herself due to government business. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much.
So, for this event, we have received 3 video messages from abroad. We wish to share them with everybody. じゃあいいですかね? Okay. First, Mr. Alexis Moore, President of the International Court of Arbitration of the International Chamber of Commerce, ICC. Okay.
Dear friends and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to congratulate you for the opening of JIDRC Tokyo. The importance of state-of-the-art hearing facilities in times of COVID cannot be overstated. Many hearings are now taking place remotely, even for complex evidentiary hearings, and Hearing Center can provide valuable support for these online hearings. The ICC, as you may know, has issued its COVID-19 note providing assistance to parties and arbitrators in organizing evidentiary hearings remotely and providing guidance as to the procedural steps that need to be undertaken in so doing. We also see more and more mixed hearings with the tribunal gathering together in the hearing center or in the hearing room physically and the parties being heard remotely. These hearings also require technical assistance, and hearing centers such as JIDRC Tokyo can provide that. A facility such as this one is also very important for the development and for the success of the Japanese arbitration community. The ICC also operates hearing centers, in particular in Paris and in Sao Paulo, and we are looking forward to cooperating with JIDRC in Tokyo. The ICC stands ready to assist ICC Japan and the Japanese arbitration community in their effort to develop the arbitration practice in your country. I had the privilege of visiting the Minister of Justice in Japan a couple of years ago, and we are, as the main arbitral institution in the world, we stand ready to support the Japanese government's initiatives to promote Japan as a seat of arbitration, and we look forward to working with the entire Japanese arbitration community to promote and support its activities. I wish the JIDRC good luck and every success in its activities, and thank you very much.
Okay, next, Ms. Meg Kenya, Secretary General of the International Center for Settlement of Investment Dispute, ICSID.
Congratulations to the Japan International Dispute Resolution Center on the opening of your new hearing facilities in Tokyo. I know from past visits to Japan that this is a goal you have had in mind for several years, and that the private and public sector have worked together to make this a reality. Your Tokyo Center is a wonderful complement to JIDRC's impressive offices in Osaka, and together these provide a tremendous option for arbitration and mediation in the region. As you may know, ICSID opened its own new hearing center in Washington just last year. So I appreciate the huge amount of effort that goes into creating a facility of this caliber, and I also know how gratifying it is to see the final result. I have no doubt that your facilities will be in great demand given their world-class features and world-class technology, and given the many other attributes of Japan as a venue for international arbitration. And as you host seminars and conferences, I am certain that these facilities will serve as an important hub for knowledge exchange on international and commercial and investment dispute settlement. I'm so sorry that I cannot be with you today in person to celebrate this achievement, but congratulations once again from your colleagues at ICSID, and we look forward to visiting you in your new hearing facilities in Tokyo in the very near future.
Okay. Third and last, Mr. Gary Bond, President of the Court of Arbitration of Singapore International Arbitration Center, SIAC.
Greetings. It's an honor to be able to... Greetings. It's a real privilege and honor. Greetings. It's an honor to be given the opportunity to address you today, even if only virtually. Let me congratulate you at the Japan International Dispute Resolution Center on the opening of your flagship hearing facilities in Tokyo. They bring state-of-the-art organization and technology to the holding of international arbitration and mediation proceedings. The opening of these facilities will contribute significantly, not just to arbitration, to international arbitration in Japan or in Asia more generally. It will contribute to the development of international arbitration around the world. The opening of these facilities is particularly important in this environment, in the environment of COVID-19. Parties, because of the pandemic, are unable to conduct in-person hearings in the way that historically, traditionally, they did so. The opening of these facilities with high-tech ability to connect counsel, connect parties, connect arbitrators from all around the world is an important contribution to the peaceful resolution of international disputes. At the Singapore International Arbitration Center, we look forward to cooperating with the JIDRC in holding virtual hearings, in holding hybrid hearings with some counsel, some parties in Tokyo, some in Singapore, some in New York or London or elsewhere in the world. The availability of these facilities will allow arbitrations under the SIC rules, but also under other institutional rules, as well as ad hoc arbitrations, to be conducted efficiently and fairly, bringing justice to commercial parties and to others. This is an important event, and you deserve to be warmly congratulated. Congratulations, and thank you again for the opportunity to participate, if only virtually, in this important event. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the messages. Here I am honored and pleased to announce that the members of the National Diet participate in this event through Zoom. Being a webinar, it is not feasible to have words from the Diet members, so may I introduce the names. Mr. Akira Sato, member of the House of Representatives, Liberal Democratic Party of Japan. Mr. Hideki Makihara, member of the House of Representatives, Liberal Democratic Party of Japan. Mr. Shunsuke Mutai, member of the House of Representatives, Liberal Democratic Party of Japan. Ms. Hiroe Makiyama, member of the House of Councillors, Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan. Thank you for making it in your busy schedule. Now we wish to proceed to the keynote speeches. First, Mr. Itsuro Terada, former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Japan. He is also a chair of the Advisory Board of JIDRC. Mr. Terada, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ide, and good afternoon. It is a great privilege for me to be here and address you at the opening of the JIDRC. To celebrate this occasion, as a member of the Japanese legal community, I'm going to talk about the development of law in the Heisei era, which began in 1989 and ended up a year and a half ago. Although the period of reign of an emperor does not represent any characteristics of economic climate or social change, the Heisei was special in the sense that it started coincidentally on the same year when the world witnessed the fall of the Berlin Wall, and distinct changes worldwide has happened year after year since then. The 30 years also means a lot to myself because I started working in the Ministry of Justice as a director of a small section in 1989 and finished my career at the Supreme Court almost at the end of Heisei. Some of you may share such sentiments. The Heisei era seemed to have been a period of restlessness, as it was marked by two major earthquakes, lengthy economic stagnation with occasional financial crisis, and social changes in respect of family composition or structure. The development of law was accordingly characterized by the restlessness. I will describe how in the next 15 minutes. Let me change into Japanese here. まず2つの立法例を取り上げます。一つは平成に入ったばかりの平成4年、私的録音録画保障制度の導入を図った著作権法の改正です。もう一つは平成18年の消費者契約法違反の差し止めを求める権限を消費者団体に与えた消費者法の改正です。これらを代表例として取り上げるのは、もちろんこれらの課題がデジタル、あるいは消費者法といういずれもこの時代に特徴的なことであることは言うまでもありませんが、それだけではありません。もともと著作権法上は、著作物の複製にあたる録音録画であっても、個人が家庭で使用する目的で行われる限り、著作権者の承諾なしに無償で行われるものとされてきました。しかし、機器の目覚ましい開発普及に伴って、私的な対応を取りつつも、容易に大量の録音録画物が作成され、ことにデジタル機器の開発によってオリジナルと大差のない品質になりまして、著作権者の経済的利益にかなり影響を及ぼすということが不安視されるに至りました。その対応策の第一弾として、この保証金制度が導入されたわけです。この法改正は、私的使用を権利者の承諾の対象外とするという枠組みは維持しつつ、権利者に経済的損失をカバーするための保証金を受ける権利を与えるということにしました。もっとも保証金といっても、権利者が直接利用者に請求することは現実的でないため、製造業者らに協力させて、デジタル機器や記録媒体の購入者から製品価格に上乗せする形で一定額を支払わせ、これを事業者らから権利を管理する団体を通じて権利者が受け取ると、こういう形で出来上がったわけであります。この制度の下では、個別の権利者に支払われる保証金は経済的損失を忠実に反映するものとなっていませんから、その飛躍に驚かされる法律実務家は少なくなかったに違いありません。ただ、ここでより注目したいのは、保証金として徴された金額が権利者に支払われるのではなく、うち2割以内の額が著作権保護事業や振興普及事業のために別途用いられるとされていることです。このようにした理由としては、 支払われた保証金の原資が経済的損失に見合うかどうか不確かであることから、権利者全体の利益となるような支出を考えることによって、一定の間接的な分配をするという説明がされています。しかし、この仕組みを抱えながら、保証金請求権を純然たる私的権利として構成するには違和感が残ります。端的に公的な目的のために徴収されるという趣旨が仕組みの中に組み込まれているというように考えることが実態に即しているでしょう。二つ目の消費者契約法の改正による差し止め訴訟は、消費者がかかる契約上のトラブル、不当約款による被害などが目立ったことに対応するための抑止策として、このような条項の使用をする事業者を相手にした差し止め請求権を団体に与えるものです。その後、他の法律でも同様の仕組みが認められました。この制度もまた司法上の権限という形で組み立てられていますが、個人には認められない請求権を団体のみ認めるということを純然たる司法上の権利として位置づけるとすると疑問が残ります。事業者に対する是正措置の多くの部分は個別の法律によって消費者庁あるいは個別の官庁とによっても成し得ることですが、むしろ消費者団体による差し止め請求権限はこの行政権限を民間の力を使って補うものという点で公的性格を帯びていると考えることがここでも実態に即しているのではないでしょうか。新しくできた2つの制度とも実はヨーロッパにモデルがあり、実現するならモデルから大きく離れないことが取り組んだ者の間でも共通理解であったと見られるのですが、その実現までにはいろいろな抵抗があり、長い検討を経てなんとか著作権者や消費者の悲願が形になった。こういう点で共通します。いずれも法律の形としては私的な権利として構成されているのですが、今述べた通り公的な要素が入り込んでいると受け止める方がわかりやすく、公私の別を固く堅持してきた近代日本の法体系に対し一つのブレイクスルーをもたらしたものと言えます。そこに国際的な影響力を見出せることは疑いないところですが、国内においてそれだけ結果を求める力が強まって立ちはだかるはずだった壁を乗り越えさせたと見ることもできるかもしれません。いささか先進的な部分から始めました。平成における公の位置づけの変化をよりオーソドックスに明らかにするのは、経済活動に対する幅広い公的規制を緩めていくということにあったことは異論がないでしょう。振り返れば平成に入ってからの段階的な規制緩和のステップとして、例えば平成11年の航空法の改正以後の航空法の様々な定点により、航空業界が再編され、LCC が参入されたというようなこと。あるいは労働者派遣事業法の改正によって、これらの労働者派遣事業というものが大幅に広く認められるようになったこと。平成12年の電気事業法の改正以後、これもいくつかの改正を経て、電力の小売りについて大幅な新規参入が可能となって、顧客にとっては選択肢が増えたこと。これらのことが身近なところとしてよく知られるところでしょう。あるいは医薬品の販売についても薬事法の改正等を経て、司法判断も加わった上で、平成25年の薬事法の改正によって、医薬品がインターネットで購入できるということも達成されました。ただ、より大掛かりなものは、平成8年以後行われた日本版の金融ビッグバンとして知られる改革で、平成10年の金融システム改革法で総括的に様々な規定が置かれましたが、ここの中で行われたことは、金融持ち株会社の解禁、銀行証券保険間の壁を薄くし、免許制から登録制へと切り替わる。結果、商品設計や手数料を自由化するという非常に大掛かりな問題がありまして、かつて言われた護送船団方式という全体の調和を重視した政策から自由化によって個々の企業の活力を高めて市場を活性化しようという狙いに転換したことは、今なお進むべき余地が将来あるとしても振り返ると苦しみを伴ったしかし大きな変革でありました。これらのトランジションを経ても、新しい現象が登場すると、まず規制の是非が議論される、この独特のカルチャーが変わったと までの評価には至らないので、これらの現象についての総合的な評価はなお分かれるところでありますけれども、かつてしてからの変化というものはかなり目に見える形で明らかになったと思います。このような動きが1985年のプラザ合意以降顕著となり、さらに冷戦の終了後により強まった国際的な市場開放圧力を背景にすることは共通認識と言えるでしょう。貿易相手らと同じ土俵に立つことが求められる中で、行政規制が後退していったわけです。ただその意味では動きを行政規制の緩和だけに焦点を合わせてみるのは相当ではありません。他方において、行政権力の行使に透明性を高めるということが合わせて求められました。規制官庁と事業者との曖昧な指導関係を正すことを念頭に、行政の関与の仕方を整備するものとして、これも長い検討を経てきた行政手続き法が平成5年に、そして行政情報公開法が平成11年に相次いで成立したことを忘れてはならないと思います。平成前半におけるこのような開かれた社会経済を求める状況は、国内における長年の懸案の実現を後押しして次に押し寄せるグローバリズムへの対応の助走となったわけであります。この関係でもう一つ指摘しておきたいことがあります。それは行政法の規律する領域に私人の役割が、目につくようになったことであります。直接的には市場開放を旗印に始まった日米構造協議ストラクチャルインペディメンツイニシアティブの役割が大きかったに違いありません。平成12年の独禁法の改正によって被害者が裁判所に差し止め請求を行うことができるようになったことはエポックメイキングでありました。さらに平成の後半、行政手続き法において、パブリックコメント制度、あるいは違法行為の是正を求める申し出などの仕組みがそれぞれ登場したことが注目されます。昭和の経済社会をリードしていた行政の役割はこのようにしてそがれ、あるいは手を縛られていき、逆に私人の役割は重みをつけていきました。しかし平成といえば誰も忘れられない甚大な自然災害の繰り返し、あるいは金融基盤のぐらつき、これらが財政的な支えという行政の別の側面にその役割拡大の可能性を見出したわけであります。近代日本の財政では、私人私企業に偶発的に生じた損失に対する公的援助にあまりポジティブではありませんでした。しかし平成7年の阪神淡路大震災による甚大な被害はこれに変化をもたらしました。当時、被災者は復旧をするにつき、義援金や貸付に頼る状況に置かれていたのですが、粘り強い被災者らの働きかけによって3年後の平成10年に被災者生活再建支援法が議員立法で成立いたしました。住宅を失った被災者により充実した生活の改新を支援するため、資金が供出され、国からの補助を受けて、金として活用され、これが被害者に支給される。このような仕組みができたわけであります。その後、災害が続くと並行して法改正が行われ、非常に使いやすい制度に現在ではなったと言われております。昭和末期の1980年代後半には金融緩和を背景に不動産金融が大きく膨張しましたが、平成に入ると行政当局の姿勢の変化も加わって不動産価格が暴落し、金融機関が不良債権として抱える残高は膨大なものとなりました。いわゆる経済のバブル崩壊であります。特にこの間、個人向けの住宅ローンで貸付を伸ばしてきた住宅専門の金融機関の不良債権は6兆円超え、平成7年にはその対応が政治的な課題となりました。当時の政府は新たに法律を成立させて6850億円の公的資金を持って預金保護を建前にこれらの救済に乗り出したわけでありますけれども、公的資金を用いての一部の事業体の救済という受け止め方をされて、国民世論をあるいは経済界から強い批判が受けたわけであります。しかしその後、平成9年から翌年にかけてアジア金融危機の影響も加わって、複数の著名な銀行あるいは証券の破綻が明らかになると、 金融制度の維持には、その程度の公的資金の導入では賄えないという認識が広まりました。翌10年には4つの法律が成立し、これに基づいて計40兆を超える公的資金がこの際に投入されたとされております。公的資金による支援の受け止め方は、災害から復旧、金融危機の対応などを経て大きく変化したわけであります。もっともこの変化は法制面で完成しているとは言い難いところであります。規制行政に比べると未成熟なところがあり、支給金の譲渡差し押さえの禁止などの手当はされている一方、給付の手続きや復刻申し立てを許すかどうかについて法律間で不揃いがあります。今年の新型ウイルスの感染 COVID-19 のケースでも未整備が露呈し、課題として残ったように思います。平成後半にもう一つ公権力の働きにシフトが生じた領域があります。従来は司法的領域と考えられていたところに公的関与が強まったわけであります。昭和の時代には公権力の前線に立つ警察などが民事不介入と断じて私的なトラブルに介入しようとしないでいてもさして異論なく受け止められていたと思います。個人間、あるいは家族間のトラブルは公権力が基本的に介入しない領域とみなされていたと言えるでしょう。これに対して平成12年に議員立法で成立した児童虐待防止法はその姿勢を打ち破る一歩でした。親らによるこの虐待が見逃せないレベルにあるとの認識が広まる中で、それまでの刑罰による対処や児童福祉法による行政措置では不十分との考えが広まって、児童権利条約の締結ということも考慮されて、警察からの支援も得、行政的な介入をより効果的にすると、こういう新法が成立したわけであります。その後も法改正が繰り返され、裁判所に関与も加えた独特の仕組みが現在では置かれております。平成13年には夫婦間を中心とした家庭内暴力への対処のため DV 防止法が成立しましたが、ここでは行政ではなく司法の出番となりました。これらの人権的配慮から来る権力による公権的介入は今後も立法として注目すべき分野となるでしょう。ただ、平成28年のヘイトスピーチ抑止法では、国のレベルでは、教育啓発体制の整備を促すにとどまる姿勢を維持しており、私人の人権侵害的言動を直接規制することに踏み込むことはなお慎重であると見られます。積極的な一部の地方行政とのコントラストが今後どうなるでしょうか。平成においては若い世代が生き方を求めて現状に納得できない様を社会学者が自分探しと名付けたりしましたが、法の世界においては公パブリックの自分探しの時代だったと言えなくもありません。平成年間はビジネスにおける伝統的な秩序の維持という意味での事前規制からは脱却し、反面私的セクターにおける規律に関心を深め働きかける役割が目立つようになりました。行政権力の役割の再調整が進んだと。こういう時代だったと言えるでしょう。別の見方をすると、この間の進捗は、モディファイや関係者の調整に時間を要しながらも、海外の制度に倣った制度を導入し続けたというようにも言えます。さらに哲学的に見ると、行使の境に対する捉え方がシフトして、公共というものを領域で捉えることから、事柄の性質という視点で見るようになったということも言えるかもしれません。かつては審議官の問題とされたところに公共的な価値を見出し介入するというようになったわけでありましょう。それはまた行使の法律関係をミックスして構成するということでの抵抗感を薄れさせたとも言えます。そしてこれらの動きはなお発展途上にあるというように思われます。Now let me switch back to English again. Before closing this Heisei story, let me turn to the only remaining area where unsupported mechanism provided by national institutions still dominates, even after the end of Showa era. That is nothing other than civil dispute resolution. In the criminal proceedings, drastic reform has been undertaken under the authority of the Judicial Reform Council at the beginning of this century. Among its outcomes are the introduction of裁判員 trials and strengthening the power of committee for inquest or prosecution. Under the new system, both of which began to work in 2009, major crimes are tried and judged by panels consisting of 3 judges and 6 lay persons called裁判員, and the final decisions of the prosecution committee are regarded as binding under certain conditions. In contrast, few participation of the people is provided in the civil proceedings. Arbitration has its own tradition as a non-governmental measures for civil dispute resolutions. And the Judicial Reform Council tried to make it more effective by amending the Arbitration Act in 2003. The Council therefore also resulted in a new law on alternative dispute resolution in 2004. Despite these achievements, however, civil dispute resolution outside the court remains not as popular as expected. How can we improve this situation? Isn't it a good idea to turn your eyes toward cooperation between ADR institution and national? When I was with the Supreme Court, I had chances of discussing with Chief Justice from the other countries and jurisdictions on judicial administration. As a matter of fact, we all agree that as contemporary institutions engaged in dispute resolution and whose credibility is essential to implement their duties, the top issue to be tackled by the authorities must be providing effective training for members of the judiciary in order for them to catch up with fast-changing society. This must also be true to arbitrators or conciliators or mediators. I see here good chances of cooperation between the two institutions for their mutual benefit. Finally, it is encouraging to see the government setting up its plan in 2017 and proceeding to actual international arbitration dispute resolutions. Further developments are expected since the government has announced that it has been ready to provide considerable support for international dispute resolution process. This new facilities here is definitely a good example. Today, most people in the legal world, domestic or international, recognize and believe in the potential of alternative dispute resolutions, including arbitration. I'm certain one of them, and I'm willing to be a good supporter of international arbitration and JIDRC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Terada. Thank you for giving us perspective of the history of the development of legal system. It also reminds us of the fact that the arbitration is not standing alone, but is standing in the fabric of the whole legal system, civil, administrative, and also criminal. Okay, next keynote speaker is Mr. Kevin Kim. Mr. Kevin Kim, partner at Peter & Kim Korea. He is also an advisory governing board member of International Council for Commercial Arbitration, ICCA. He'll make his speech from Korea through Zoom. Please, Mr. Kim, sorry for waiting.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start my speech by thanking Professor Aoyama, President of the JIDRC, Minister Kamigawa, Minister of Justice, Kawamura Sensei, President of the Japan Association of Arbitrators, and Ara Sensei, President of the Japan Federation of Bar Association, for their kind invitation to speak at the opening ceremony of the JIDRC Tokyo. I congratulate the Japanese arbitration community on overcoming the many challenges presented by COVID-19 and picking up the agenda full speed by opening the Tokyo facilities of the Japan International Dispute Resolution Center. As the saying goes, 石の上にも3年. Success will come if you are patient. Japanese people certainly mastered perseverance, which I believe was essential to the Japanese legal community's commitment to arbitration during the current tough times. I appreciate that JIDRC Tokyo and JIDRC more generally are the result of joint effort and hard work. I'm certain that the JIDRC has only been able to come to life thanks to the perseverance and dedication of a number of incredible people who has nurtured this project for many years before its launch. This is no small feat. As I went through a similar process myself, I can easily recognize the great deal of the work that is not only necessary to achieve such project, but also to successfully do so. I know that the road is long and demanding when one's tried to become a leader in their field. As such, I'd like to communicate my utmost respect and admiration to the persons behind the JIDRC. 2020 is a pivotal year for Japan. It not only marks the start of new decade, but also the commencement of new cycle as Japan said goodbye to Heisei era by embracing the new emperor and Reiwa era in 2019. Recently welcomed a new prime minister and moving forward by preparing to hold the Olympic and Paralympic Games less than a year from now. I believe Japan has definitely caught the world attention and now standing in spotlight. I trust the JIDRC Tokyo will allow Japan to step into a new arbitration era, one where the local awareness and appetite for arbitration will make Tokyo, Osaka, and Japan as world an excellent environment for arbitration, and as such will allow Tokyo and Japan to shine in the global arbitration world. I believe that the launch of the JIDRC Tokyo is impeccable in terms of timing. Indeed, there are presently two specific needs in arbitration that would, in my view, benefit the JIDRC. First, many large Japanese companies are presently amongst some of the global leading companies, and as such are always looking for new opportunities worldwide. Indeed, Japan has been one of the leading economic powers in the world, and particularly in Asia, for many decades now. Japanese companies looking for new opportunities worldwide will necessarily generate conflict in the process. Asian, and particularly Japanese companies, has also recently started to develop great confidence in and better understanding of arbitration process. As such, the Japanese companies should step up and become even more involved in arbitration, which would allow Japan to operate on a brand new spectrum and compete on equal footing with London and Paris, or even Singapore and Hong Kong, which were traditionally the preferred arbitral venues. Second, more than ever before, there is a growing demand for the arbitration proceedings to be held in Asia. Parties to the arbitrations are leaving historic arbitration centers such as London and Paris, and rather choosing arbitral venues in Asia. Singapore, Hong Kong has capitalized on such a demand until today. As arbitration in Asia has become increasingly popular with Western parties, and I anticipate that it will become even more prominent in arbitration proceedings between Asian parties. I believe that the need for arbitral venue in Asia is so important that other countries and cities must have ample infrastructure and opportunities to respond to such a demand. Tokyo can, in the process, become a new cornerstone for arbitration in Asia. My view has always been that Japan is one of the best venues, not only in Asia, but also in the world. And that's for many reasons. In fact, too many reasons to count in just one speech. It stands to reason that I deem the opening of the JIDRC Tokyo to come exactly at the right time to answer these needs. To start, a key feature for the arbitral venue is the local arbitral law. Indeed, the law of the sea is very important in arbitral proceedings. In fact, it is crucial. As you surely all know, the law of the sea does not need to be identical to law of the country. As such, Japan is at advantage when parties to arbitrations are considering a venue. The Japanese arbitration law, promulgated in 2003, is modern, very international, practical, and it is based on the UNCITRAL model law. Japanese arbitration law helps to bolster the holding of international arbitration in Japan, as there are no distinction between domestic and international arbitration under the law, contrary to the model law. Japan has started its legislative process to update arbitration law to adopt the 2006 amendment to the UNCITRAL model law, setting up the working group in the Legislative Council to the Ministry of Justice quite recently. Second, it seems obvious to me that if a country possesses an excellent arbitration law, it will also most certainly have a reliable and competent legal system. I regard the Japanese court system as full supportive of arbitration. I believe international users of arbitrations are likely have this great confidence in the administration of Japanese arbitration law by Japanese court, because the Japan's long history as international economic power. The Japanese courts are perhaps one of the most sophisticated courts in the world when it comes to the commands. Japanese judges can therefore inspire confidence in arbitration users that the law will be interpreted in an arbitration-friendly manner, consistent with global best practices. Parties to arbitration in Japan do not need to worry about the court being partial, as Japanese courts are well known for its neutrality, and it's unlikely that the court will not unjustly intervene in the arbitration proceedings. As such, I'm confidently say that Japanese courts are generally pro-arbitration and can be trusted by the parties. Japan is also now considering making a judicial system even more pro-arbitration by introducing special jurisdiction of Tokyo or Osaka District Court on arbitration-related cases, in which Japanese translation of English documents may be dispensed with. Third, I believe Japan will continue its growth toward becoming arbitration centerpieces, as it is very convenient arbitral seat. I can confidently say that Japan, Tokyo, Osaka are probably two most convenient cities in the world with regard to traveling and conducting business, which is obviously a plus in arbitration. Japanese public transportation system is highly praised, and justly so. Trains and planes are fast, punctual, and modern. You just need to look at all news articles praising Japan for this Shinkansen and other transportations. Tokyo and Osaka are easily accessible through direct flight, not only from Asia, but also from America, Europe, Australia, and Middle East. There are no concerns whether you will arrive to your hearing on time. One more example. One convenient feature is even you don't need to touch the door of the taxi in Tokyo and any cities in Japan. So handy with COVID-19. I think the other countries should adopt this system in the future. Traveling for hearings and arbitration event or seminars in Japan is practical. We should play a role in Japan becoming an important arbitration platform in Asia. Similarly, Japan has wide range of hotels at various different price points, which I believe shall be appreciated by the parties. If I may speak of Japanese culture for a moment, the instant arbitrators, counsels arrive in Japan for their hearing, they're submerged in rich and charming Japanese culture. From nearby Kyoto, Nara in Osaka, and Meiji, Jingu, and Skytree in Tokyo, to list a few. It's quite different from the arbitrators or counsels' home and office culture, but at the same time, it remains beautiful and attractive. I believe this efficiently broadens one's horizon, opening minds, making them more sensitive to different cultures. It reminds everyone that different culture may have different, but equally attractive way of doing something, which is very valuable and much wanted reminder before a multinational arbitration. The fourth reason why I also trust Japan will be able to respond to the current need in arbitration is the Japanese legal community. I see the Japanese legal community as the key to Japan becoming one of the go-to seat for arbitration in Asia. I hold Japanese legal society in high esteem, and Japanese lawyers are truly part of the elite with high-level skills. Such well-respected lawyers, I believe, highly contribute to the development of Japan's as possible next arbitration hub in Asia. And while Japanese legal professionals at times tend to take time to carefully consider every aspect of the proposed modification to the current system, once on board, I found Japanese people to be dedicated, open-minded, demonstrating great integrity, and ready to make things work. In addition to that, the Japanese economy has also made it very attractive for global law firms to open office, at least a desk in Asia. Many major global law firms have already taken the plunge and expanded their operations in the Asian market by first opening an office in Tokyo. this incredible melting pot of both local Japanese and international lawyers is driving force for Japan's domestic arbitration. If there is an international connection, and by reducing the requirement for post-qualification work experience, I believe Japan has indicated its commitment to becoming the major seat of arbitration. I'd like to express admiration of Japanese arbitration community, which is working hard to put Japan in forefront of arbitration scene. A fifth reason for which I trust Japan is now the natural venue for arbitration in Asia is due to the JIDRC itself. What was missing for Japan to become an attractive seat was proper hearing facilities. With the JIDRC Osaka and now JIDRC Tokyo, Japan has remedied its shortcomings. The JIDRC now provided state-of-art hearing facilities offering transcription, translation, as well as management services. The hearing rooms are not only beautiful, publicly located, but also highly functional, ready to support the need of large or complex arbitrations. With establishment of JIDRC and first-class facilities, the circle is complete, and Japan can aspire to serve an important role as a seat for both domestic and cross-border arbitrations. I also think that another reason for which Japan is likely to become a frequent arbitral venue is its legal system. As a civil law country, as it has strength and ability to balance out Singapore and Hong Kong, which has dominated arbitration in Asia until now, but are common law jurisdictions. As such, Japan will offer an alternative for parties who would prefer to arbitrate in Asia, but in a nation based on civil law system. The JIDRC has removed what was, in my mind, the only barrier to having Japan and Tokyo as arbitral venue in an arbitration. It represents a crucial milestone in the development of ADR in Japan. Going forward, I trust that JIDRC will become Japan's arbitration landmark, the same way Maxwell Chamber is in Singapore. It will become a familiar destination for all arbitration practitioners who will visit Japan and will soon become synonymous with Japanese arbitration. If you allow me to exaggerate a bit, I believe the JIDRC as a whole will become something alike Colosseum of Japanese arbitration. I trust and wish that someday the JIDRC will have become such an authority in arbitration world that will have grown into seasoned arbitration spot. If I may, in Japanese, shinise in arbitration. Before then, I hope I'll be asked to come back for a speech at the JIDRC's 10th year anniversary. So at the end, just like Momiji will come soon, I wish the JIDRC and Japanese arbitration community to have an equally colorful future and express my full commitment to participating in Japan's growth as a major destination for arbitration. I'd like to extend my special thanks to Chief Justice Terada for his insightful speech, and looking forward to Professor Hayakawa's presentation followed by my colleague, Ohara Sensei, Mr. Moza, Mr. Costello, Tezuka Sensei, Harada Sensei, and Takatori Sensei's presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kim, Mr. Kim. And thank you both for Mr. Terada and Mr. Kim for the encouraging and at the same time insightful messages in their speeches. So from now, although we are considerably behind, we will have a short break for 5 minutes. The business will resume at 3:25 Japan time. During the break, we will show a short movie introducing the Tokyo facility guided by Professor Yoshihisa Hayakawa, JIDRC's Executive Director and Secretary General. Those who have seen it or are already familiar with the facility can skip it, but please come back at 3:25 for the panel discussion. Hayakawa-sensei, are we ready?
Yes, thank you very much. And at the physical venue, our staff is busily changing the stage. And but for the online attendee, I'd like to show a short video of the JIDRC Tokyo facility. And fortunately, the physical attendee here in JIDRC, they enjoyed to look for the several functions or facilities of the JIDRC, but some of the online attendee did not have any chance to see JIDRC Tokyo facility. So I'd like to explain something about our new facility. So we have 2 big hearing rooms and 6 breakout rooms. It means that we could parallelly conduct 2 different arbitration proceedings. We opened our new facility at the end of March this year, but unfortunately, the state of emergency was issued by the government of Japan, and we had to close our new facility, temporarily. But during the term, we tried to improve our new facilities much more, especially for the age of COVID-19. So you are now enjoying this opening ceremony by Zoom or other online remote access systems. And we try to improve our systems or our facilities to easily connect to such kind of the various remote access systems. Using this system, we can easily connect to the foreign venue, like until now we experienced with Australian venue, or with Switzerland venue, or with Singapore venue, or some other venue foreign countries. So the arbitrator sometimes located in Switzerland, and the witness is located in Japan, but we could easily connect these 2 or more venues for the arbitration hearings. And additionally, we are providing the seminar or symposium venue using the same function. So now JIDRC Tokyo facility is one of the very appropriate place for using the hybrid style arbitration proceedings or hybrid style seminar and symposium, workshop, something else. So we are very proud of our system now, and please visit our facilities in Toranomon, and subway station is just under our buildings. And you can easily come to by the limousine bus from Haneda Airport or Narita Airport. And we are basically open if you need 24 hours. And we will provide our facility to the Court of Arbitration for Sport next year during the postponed Olympic Games Tokyo. So thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation, and everything is ready. And we are moving to the fantastic panel discussion part. And we are waiting for our moderator, Ms. Ohara. And I will pass this microphone to Mr. Idei.
It's time. Shall we start? Now we will proceed to the panel discussion, Role of Tokyo as Seat of International Arbitration, Expectations and Suggestions in the Era of COVID-19. Ms. Yoshimi Ohara, partner at Nagashima Ono and Tsunematsu, will be a moderator. She is also executive director of JAA. 4 panelists, including a moderator, are here in JIDRC Tokyo, and 2 other panelists are going to participate from abroad through Zoom. We are waiting for you, Ohara-sensei. Okay. I finally can turn my microphone to Ohara-sensei. Please, the panel is yours. I have already introduced you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind introduction. My name is Yoshimi Ohara. I'm sorry to be fashionably late. So, well, Honorable Chief Justice, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor and privilege to moderate a panel session with such distinguished guests at the inaugural event of JIDRC Tokyo. All the panelists are well known in this field, do not require any introduction. Therefore, my introduction will be very brief. Otherwise, it will take half of the time for panel discussion. So first, I would start with Dr. Michael Moser, an arbitrator of 20 Essex who is always in high demand. He's joining from Hong Kong. Second, Mr. James Castillo, a partner of King & Spalding. He's joining us from Paris. And third, on my right, Mr. Tsuyoshi Harada, an executive officer, head of legal department of Nippon Steel Corporation. On my left, Hiroyuki Tezuka, executive director of JAA, Japan Association of Arbitrators. On my farther left, Mr. Yoshi Takatori, co-convener of CIR Japan chapter. It was in October 2013 when I was in Hong Kong during the Hong Kong Arbitration Week to meet with DOJ representatives and Dr. Michael Moser, who just retired from chairpersonship from HKIAC and other leading arbitration practitioners in Hong Kong. Back then I was new, not young, to arbitration community in Japan and just joined JAA. My trip to Hong Kong was part of METI, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industries project, entrusted to JAA to study arbitration policies in the region. I was quite impressed by a clear vision of DOJ and concerted and collegial efforts of arbitration community in Hong Kong to promote Hong Kong as hub of international arbitration in the region. One of the suggestions I received then was to have a functioning hearing facility easily accessible and open to global arbitration community. 6 years have passed since JAA submitted a report to the METI recommending arbitration policies to the government of Japan. Therefore, I especially congratulate the opening of the state-of-the-art hearing facility at the heart of Tokyo. However, the opening of hearing facility is not the goal, but the beginning of our continuous efforts to strive to become a leading arbitration seat in Asia. Besides, the role of physical hearing facility has transformed when arbitration has gone virtual due to COVID-19 pandemic. So this panel session will address two topics most pertinent to JIDRC Tokyo. The first topic is how we can develop Japan as a leading arbitration seat in Asia. The second topic is international arbitration in the era of COVID-19 and the role of physical hearing facility. For the first topic, Dr. Michael Moser, who is the former chair of HKIAC and an incumbent board member of SIC, will provide the opening remarks to kick off our discussions. Without a further ado, I will hand over the floor to Michael. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yoshimi-san. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored, of course, and delighted to be here today at the opening ceremony for the JIDRC. Allow me really to congratulate you all for your excellent work so far in achieving this real milestone development. But now we have the JIDRC. Yoshimi and I talked about it some years ago, as she mentioned just shortly beforehand. And now it's a reality. And what we now need to do is to think about what is the work that lies ahead? How can we capitalize on the establishment of the JIDRC so as to further develop Tokyo and Japan's position as a leading international arbitration center? And to answer that question, I think it is useful perhaps just to take a moment and step back and think where we were 30 years ago, for example. Paris and London, New York dominated the landscape. Hong Kong and Singapore, however, since then have now taken up a lot of that activity and developed important roles as arbitration centers in Asia, rivaling the European centers. And I remember very well, as you can see from my gray hair, I was around at that time, working in Hong Kong and in Singapore and witnessing this very historic development. And when we think back, what were the factors that underpinned the ability of places like Hong Kong and Singapore to develop as important arbitration centers? I think that the sweet recipe really was a combination of some hardware and software factors, many of which are well known. Other speakers today have touched on them. But just to remind ourselves, on the hardware side, convenient location, ease of access, modern infrastructure, developed facilities for business visitors, and so on. And if you look back, it's easy to see how over the last 30 years, places like Hong Kong and Singapore, as developed regional financial centers, were able to piggyback on that infrastructure and develop themselves as important locations for international arbitration. And on the software side, there are certain elements which everyone recognizes today are sine qua non. And they are, for example, the existence of a modern, updated arbitration legislation, a supportive judiciary with specialized judges who understand international arbitration developments and trends. Government support is another very important factor to the success of Hong Kong and Singapore as they develop themselves. Another factor, I think, which is often not recognized but equally important is the ability to establish or create a local international arbitration community, which includes not just local legal professionals, but members of business, i.e. users in the community, and international players in the region who are involved in international arbitration, so that the center becomes a focal point, much like the HKIAC is in Hong Kong, where I'm sitting today, or Maxwell Chambers is in Singapore. And finally, on the software side, marketing. Those activities are endless, but they are absolutely critical to success. Now, if we look at that background of how it was done in Singapore and Hong Kong, we come back to Tokyo and look at ourselves compared to that. I think we can all agree that the hardware factors are certainly met or exceeded in Hong Kong as compared to elsewhere. The facilities which one can find in Tokyo and Osaka, or indeed at the JIDRC, are clear testament to that. International arbitration users, as Kevin mentioned a moment ago, absolutely want to come to Tokyo, and the existence of the JIDRC will no doubt be an added plus. As to strategic location, let me come back to that in just a moment. But let's move on then to the software factors in Japan, in Tokyo. I think it's clear many of these are already in place. They're already underway. We've heard about this from previous speakers, the Minister of Justice talking about educational projects undergoing, the head of the JCAA, the remarks that he made, and Kevin Kim's remarks as well, all indicated that due to the excellent work already done in Japan, the arbitration law reform, development of a sophisticated local bar, and so on and so forth, many of the elements of the software part are already in existence. But now we have JIDRC. Does that mean that just because we have a hearing center, people will come? I think that we need to sound a note of caution, because the hard work really lies ahead. But I think what we can do is to look at JIDRC as a focal point, as an umbrella, not just as a hearing center, a physical facility, but an umbrella organization to bring together and foster that international arbitration community in Japan, which then can engage in other activities, such as one might think of the creation of an English language publication, which would inform users throughout the world about what's happening in Japan in arbitration, case developments, legislative changes and developments and plans. An organization that would work with and facilitate judicial exchanges, work with the courts, bring them closer to organizations such as ICA, which have a very developed judicial training program. And of course, organizing marketing events in Japan and outside to promote the work of arbitration in Japan. I would also think about JIDRC initiating cooperative relationships with the other leading arbitration institutions, just as Singapore did, Maxwell Chambers and SEAC, and the Seoul Center, bringing in representatives from other institutions, sitting alongside with them in their centers, creates a very interesting cross-selling effect. And I'm confident that if the JIDRC were to initiate something similar, it would be very, very worthwhile. Another thought might be to formulate procedures for the administration of UNCITRAL arbitrations under the aegis of the JIDRC. As you know, this is a kind of short-form administration services, which is something which both SEAC and the HKIC implemented before they developed their own institutional rules. They had established prior to that time this facilitation service for UNCITRAL ad hoc arbitrations. I think this is something that certainly is worthwhile exploring. But most critical of all is the development of a focused, user-based strategy. And this is not just a matter of looking at Japan-based companies, the major Japanese multinationals, or the offices of foreign companies based in Japan, encouraging them to incorporate Japan arbitration clauses and so on. Yes, that's part of it. But the other side, it seems to me, is an effort to really promote Tokyo as an alternative to other Asian venues for Asia-based and international users. Think, for example, about contract disputes between Korean parties and mainland Chinese companies. Or think about contract disputes between European companies and Chinese companies, or European and Korean companies, or between Korean and Chinese and North and South American companies, and so on. At present, large numbers of these disputes are going to Singapore. They're going to Hong Kong. There's no reason at all why Tokyo can't claim its fair share of these increasingly numerous disputes. Tokyo's location in North Asia, its adoption of a modern model law, the sorts of reform initiatives that we've been hearing about earlier, all of these factors should be seen as positive to the promotion of Tokyo as an international arbitration center. So I think in every respect, whether hardware or software, Japan can provide that attractive alternative option. But what we need is a united focus for new initiatives, for more vigorous marketing and messaging. And this is something I think that the creation of JIDRC will be able to provide. So we have indeed, I think, very exciting days ahead of us. And I think we all will watch with great anticipation as the years ahead unfold. Thank you very much.
Michael, thank you very much for holistic approach to promote, advising holistic approach to promote Japan as seat of arbitration. With this informative, insightful comments, I would like to kick off the discussions of this panel. There are a couple of sub-issues I think it's worth discussing before expanding what Michael has just commented or advised. So Michael explained how Singapore, Hong Kong has been quite successful adopting numerous approaches to promote promote their profile as a seat of arbitration. Perhaps, James, could you briefly share your experience in London, Paris? And so before Singapore, Hong Kong became so popular as a seat of arbitration, lawyers, contract lawyers always look for London, Paris as a seat of arbitration. What did they do to promote their profile in the arbitration? Quite briefly, if you can share your observation, that would be fantastic. Excuse me, you mute yourself.
Thank you. The most elemental rule of participating by Zoom. Good morning to all of you from Paris, and thank you, Yoshimi, for that introduction. I think both Paris and London had a number of advantages at the beginning. I think they have succeeded in different ways. I think for Paris, having the International Chamber of Commerce, which, as many of you know, is not just a vehicle for arbitration, but is also a large commercial organization focusing on international business cooperation. And having that headquarters in Paris, I think, gave Paris a sort of a head start for attracting international business attention. For London, I would say the reputation of the English commercial courts, which may support arbitration proceedings, as well as the tradition of rule of law, I think helped make the LCIA a desirable international arbitration venue. And also, of course, England and London have the luck of using as their national language English, which has become the international commercial language dominating the vast majority of international arbitration. So now, even in Paris, the ICC has proved itself able to conduct, I would guess, at least 80% of all of its arbitration cases in English, despite the French tradition in Paris. Also, both organizations have established a structure which I think helped to draw in the rest of the world. So many of you will know that the ICC has established what it calls national committees in most of the major commercial and trading countries of the world, which support the work of the ICC, first by helping to nominate arbitrators in particular cases, and also by identifying people for the ICC court, which is a very large body, over 100 members, and has members and alternate members from all of those national committees. Similarly, the LCIA has established a system of regional users councils, which it has of our supportive practitioners in Latin America, North America, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Europe. And that has served a similar function of bringing in what Michael referred to as a community of arbitration lawyers, but in this case, international, to the LCIA. And similarly, I can tell you that for many years, the LCIA considered whether to drop the word London from its title, the London Court of International Arbitration, because they didn't want to suggest that it was just a local entity. But in the end, they kept London because they found that many of their users liked the idea of having a London seat. But still, the structure, the court, for example, has 35 members on it, and no more than 6 of those can be English lawyers, and the rest of them come from all over the world. And indeed, you, Yoshimi, served as a vice president of the LCIA court for several years. So this is, if you looked at the court today, it has representatives from all over the world. I think these kinds of structures have helped to create an international orientation towards both London and Paris as seats of arbitration.
Thank you, James, for your comments. It's quite interesting to know that LCIA has some quota, minority quota for British practitioners to make the institution international. With this input, I would like to move to the second subtopic, which is so now you see so many competitions among the seats in the jurisdiction, particularly in Asia, and now Japan is going to sort of join in this competition. Hiroyuki, can you share what we can offer to arbitration community by, offering this new venue to the region?
Thank you. I will raise 2 points. One is that in Japan, there are many civil law-oriented and common law-oriented Japanese and non-Japanese arbitration specialists in Tokyo who support the practices of international arbitration conducted in Japan. And also, we have very convenient location, many direct flights from major business cities. And while Incheon Airport has more flights, it takes more than 90 minutes from the Seoul International Dispute Resolution Center in Gangnam area to the Incheon Airport with the traffic jam. But from JIDRC to Haneda Airport, it is always 20-25 minutes ride. And Tokyo is much closer to North America, particularly the East Coast, than Hong Kong or Singapore. So arbitration involving American continent parties may be more conveniently held in Tokyo or Osaka. And talking about the arbitrators, we need to find someone from non-Japanese in many cases, and in addition to Korea and Hong Kong, Singapore, we can select from Australia or New Zealand, which is very conveniently located from Tokyo. And basically, I think Tokyo's good point is that there are a few big mess. And in New York, there can be a big parades or a marathon with a wide range of road closures. And in my case, the date of arrival happened to be the St. Patrick Day, and the date of departure was the New York Half Marathon Day. So I needed to walk with my big luggage for 3 or 4 blocks in order to get to the hotel. And in Paris, the city I love, sometimes suffer a very big strikes, and the traffic may become a mess. So I think such kind of stability of the normal course of business is one of the biggest advantage of Tokyo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tezuka-sensei. So the next point I want to discuss is, so if Japan wants to become a leading arbitration seat, but, it has to be based on agreement between the parties, then the question is how to persuade users to choose Japan as the seat of arbitration. Perhaps, Harada-san, you are the representative of users and the only representative of users in this panel session. I would appreciate if you share your observation as to how users, Japanese companies or any companies, would choose seat during the negotiation of arbitration clause with the opposing party?
Thank you. When companies decide seat of arbitration in contract negotiations, they consider several elements. First, whether the place is neutral and impartiality can be expected. Often, home countries of parties to contracts are excluded. Second, whether the place is well recognized for arbitration and communication in English can be expected. And third, whether the place is attractive. And these tended to result in London, Paris, New York, Singapore, and Hong Kong, which are the preferred seat of arbitration. Of course, as pointed out by many people here today, there should be other factors which are legally more important. For example, the precise meaning of the seat of arbitration and how the legal system, including national arbitration law, affects the proceedings and outcome of the arbitration. However, we should be aware of the reality of business. The reality is that we seldom discuss those technical legal issues during contract negotiations. Most companies do not spend much time to discuss the arbitration clause in negotiations. Typically, business issues are negotiated first, and the arbitration clause is left for lawyers to discuss at the final stage of documentation. So when we discuss arbitration clause, sometimes business people are shaking hands. And this is why the three elements that I noted earlier, which do not require detailed discussion on legal implications, would determine the seat of arbitration. And these factors have to be taken into consideration when we do the marketing, and how these are considered by the business people. I stop here.
Thank you, Harada-san. So, based on what you just heard from Harada-san, practitioners, how would you advise to your client in choosing the seat of arbitration? Perhaps Hiroyuki, how do you think you can persuade business people to choose Japan as a seat of arbitration?
Okay, I think we should distinguish between the two major scenarios. One is for the JIDRC to be a neutral place for non-Japanese parties. And the other scenario is how the Japanese parties can successfully persuade the non-Japanese parties to accept Japan as the seat. And talking about the latter, I have heard many times that the Japanese companies sometimes give up the idea of persuasion because they know that it is very difficult to persuade the non-Japanese party to agree to Japan as a seat. But if we look into the reasons why such objection was raised, it is often the case that, there is no arbitration center. We don't want to find hotel rooms each time. But that has been resolved by the opening of the JIDRC. And the other issue was the notion that the Japanese Foreign Lawyers Act narrowly defined the international arbitration where the non-Japanese foreign attorneys can represent parties. But that issue has now been very beautifully resolved by the amendment to the Foreign Attorneys Act. And also there are some stories about the lack of enforceable interim relief. But we are now addressing that issue in the upcoming legislation. So I think by narrowing down the problems raised by the other parties, we are now in a better position to induce the other parties to agree. And very briefly about the neutral place, I think we have a lot of opportunities for having JIDRC as a neutral venue for non-Japanese parties, like Korea versus US, Europe versus China, as a very neutral, convenient place. But the problem is that we are not yet known very well. So I think promotion and the marketing, as Michael emphasized, is the next step. And if they find their experience to be enjoyable, like having the nicest sushi in Tokyo, then I think it's a very attractive choice for them once they taste it, actually.
Thank you, Hiroyuki Tezuka-sensei, for your interesting comments. So it seems that it is quite important to do the proper marketing. And, when I say marketing, there are a couple of issues are included. For example, as Michael suggested at the outset, perhaps it would be useful to have English language publication which explain the legal system of arbitration, and also arbitration related legal system in general in Japan, so that users outside Japan or practitioners outside Japan feel more confidence, find confidence in the arbitration in Japan. So perhaps again, as Hiroyuki mentioned, marketing. May I turn to Harada-san? You are one of those multinational companies, and you are, doing business outside Japan as well. And how do you find other arbitration institutions or hearing facility conducting and marketing targeting to Japanese parties?
I think they are quite active and aggressive, and I often receive invitation to seminars and conference, and also newsletters from various parties, including foreign law firms, also arbitration institutions, and so forth. And they all say, let us explain how it works in Singapore, for example, or Hong Kong, or those kind of things. And I think it would be very important for Japan also to start or continue this kind of marketing activities and emphasizing the merit of the establishment of JIDRC Tokyo Osaka, targeting first the business leaders and legal practitioners in Japan as well as foreign countries, so that, for example, legal departments in the United States would receive invitation for JIDRC seminars, for example. This kind of activity should be very important.
Thank you very much, Harada-san, for your observation. So another important element to develop Japan as the leading arbitration seat that was suggested by the Minister of Justice as well as Michael is providing education, particularly to younger generation. So can I seek your comments, Yoshi Takatori-san? You have been serving as co-convener of CIR, which is specialized in providing training to arbitration practitioners. You have seen training activities outside Japan, and perhaps you can share with us what we can do more to provide training to, well, people like us and also people in the next generation in particular. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoshi. This is very nice opportunity. I very appreciate it. So, as the kind of trainer and faculty member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, we have been doing a huge efforts to do training, not only for the young practitioners, but also for senior people who should be familiarized with the international practice for the arbitration. And such a practical training should be kind of combined with the kind of oral sessions and the interactive discussions. And our CIF's test is not only for the writing test, but also for like assessment of the oral discussions. And so we faculty member are assessing the all discussions during the session. And also, I'd like to emphasize the practical, such as the, mock arbitration, the mock mediation is very important. For example, we have been doing the kind of joint mock arbitration case study with the Ministry of Justice 2 years ago. And that's combined with the mediation, actually. So my comment should be a little bit related to the Japanese kind of attractive points, as Kevin Kim mentioned, the like amicable culture, and not only for the taxi doors, automatic doors, but I like it actually that such kind of nice combination of mediation and arbitration should be quite strong and a powerful device for us. And also another point is the promotion, not only to the Japanese users, but also for foreign or abroad users. That's the key. For example, currently the Ministry of Justice of the Japanese government is now working with the Ministry of Justice of the Israel government regarding the how to improve for the high-tech transaction dispute resolution or something. For such dispute resolution, we definitely have efficient expertise. So we should do such kind of very sophisticated training, as well as the practical aspects of familiarizing the users. I think that's the key. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the input for all the panelists. To sum up, I think, to develop Japan as a leading arbitration seat, so we have to have a combination of good software and hardware. And we have, built a good hardware, and it is time to, revisit our software element as well. We have discussed some of the key elements of software aspect has been already achieved, but haven't been marketed properly. Perhaps we should, do more emphasis on marketing and let the wider community know what kind of services we actually can offer and offering. And also at the same time, we have to recognize the shortcomings still we have in relation to soft element. Perhaps it's good to, sort out those, elements that we can still continue to work on, and then, striving to become even better arbitration seat in the region. So with that, I would like to move to the second topic. We have only almost 15 minutes, or short of 15 minutes, about 15 minutes left for the second topic, but still it is quite pertinent and relevant to JIDRC, which is COVID-19 era international arbitration, what JIDRC, the physical hearing facility, can offer. So when pandemic arose, many court proceedings, court proceedings in many jurisdictions were disrupted. But arbitration community immediately reacted and responded to the rising demand for dispute settlement. And as a result, international arbitration went virtual. So almost all submissions are done online only, and hearings are virtually conducted all the time. And we have no more hanko, the stamp, in the arbitration, even held in Japan. But the question arises, when arbitration goes virtual, what physical facility can offer? Some hints has been already made by some of the panelists and speakers, but perhaps, Mr. James Costello, who has been arguing a number of cases seated in various jurisdictions, but almost all the time remotely from his beautiful house in Paris, he can share his observation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Yoshimi. I think very briefly, since we have limited time, I think there are 4 ways in which a hearing center can still operate usefully during this period. And it was a pleasure for those of us joining you online to see during the short break the video of your spectacular state-of-the-art facility. Sad to hear that you had to close it as soon as you opened it in March, but glad to know that it can soon serve in limited functions going forward. So I think the first one is that where a hearing center can operate on a limited basis, that is to say within existing health requirements, which may limit, for example, the number of people that can be at any one time in a hearing room, it may still be possible, and I've heard that this has happened in some cases, where you have a limited number of counsel and parties and arbitrators, to have a small hearing if they can all reach the hearing center face-to-face in a hearing room. And for those kinds of proceedings, of course, the hearing center needs to publicize, what are the limitations of imposing the current health requirements of the jurisdiction, what measures have been taken to ensure the safety of the environment, such as requiring that people bring their own headpieces to link into the audiovisual system and so forth. Then I think even as Yoshimi said, there are the vast majority of hearings that are now occurring are to some extent occurring remotely. And I think even in these circumstances, it can be useful to have hearing facilities available. And let me give you an example. Let's say that you had a hearing that was seated in Paris, let's say subject to ICC rules, and it requires a testimony from an expert or a fact witness who is located in Japan. Now, it's not possible currently or for parties or counsel or arbitrators who are located outside of Europe to come easily to France. Many of those are restricted against coming at all, or if you do come, you have to be in a quarantine when you get here. But if you have a witness, for example, in Japan, who may not have sophisticated equipment in his or her own house, then it's very useful to be able to access a hearing center like the JIDRC, which, as was emphasized during the video, can link up with other hearing centers around the world to be part of a global virtual hearing. And I have already experienced that situation where a particular witness was remotely located in a distant continent and nevertheless in the Middle East was able to access a hearing center and participate seamlessly. I think that the third point is that for hearings that are totally virtual and you don't have anyone sitting in a physical hearing center, nevertheless, a hearing center can offer a package of a platform like the Zoom platform I'm using now to speak to you from Paris, as well as certain software providers that can simplify the parties' tasks of managing the technology during the hearing. For example, some software providers will take charge of presenting all the physical evidence, the PowerPoint presentations, the slides of exhibits from the record, while lawyers are making their arguments or witnesses are being cross-examined. And similarly, they will also take charge of admitting people to the hearing proceeding virtually and also moving parties and counsel to breakout rooms during the break. And then you finally, I think you have a fourth function that hearing centers can serve, which is to organize things like online seminars, online training. We've just heard about the plans of the JIDRC. This is something that other hearing centers are doing constantly, even in the COVID-19 era, having online webinars Michael Moser referred to this in his very first remarks about fostering a community of supportive practitioners in a location and how important that is to developing a seat of arbitration. And I would just note finally that each of the major organizations in my part of the world have a youth branch, a young ICC, for example, that gathers together the kind of young practitioners who are just becoming acquainted with arbitration and with the techniques of arbitration. Those organizations also sponsor by web, by online link, seminars and training for their members, and that helps to reinforce this growing sense of community around arbitration centers. So I think all of those are functions that can be served even during this regrettable era of pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, James, for sharing quite useful experience you have with the physical hearing facility during COVID-19. Michael, do you have anything to add to James based on your experience of, I'm sure you've done a number of virtual hearings. How do you find arbitration has transformed after, this COVID-19?
Well, thank you, Yoshimi. I think, for my part, actually the most amazing remark or observation that I've had now as a result of participating in a good number of hybrid and totally virtual hearings has been how well they actually have ended up being conducted. Much to my surprise. I think there's a good deal of hesitation, trepidation at the outset about interacting virtually with witnesses in making submissions to a tribunal and so on and so forth. But once we are in a world where we don't have any options, people have accommodated in various ways to make it happen, so to speak. And I think the end result has been a lot more satisfying and acceptable to people than one would have originally thought based on initial reactions. The question then arises is, as we go now back into a normal world at some point, we hope, to what extent will clients and others who are paying the bill for arbitration proceedings, which previously could require mobilizing 40 or 50 people to fly to expensive jurisdictions. To what extent now will those who pay the bills start saying, well, we were doing this virtually or in a hybrid way last year, can't we do it again that way because it saves a lot of costs? So I think there are still a lot of questions to answer in the future.
Thank you very much. So right now we have limited options, but what would happen if we, post-COVID-19, we have options? Perhaps from users' perspective, Harada-san, do you have anything to share or your observation?
Well, my experience in arbitration is rather limited, so obviously my observation will also be limited, but post-COVID-19, it would be very convenient for user side to be able to have options, whether it is physical, virtual, or the combination, which is hybrid. And like other people said, we can save costs by not traveling to foreign countries, and also we can also secure safety through that kind of participation. But from our user side, totally virtual hearings would be a little bit concerned because we are so used to meeting face to face. And for example, when I participated in a physical hearing, when I entered the hearing room, I was able to see the atmosphere of the situation from the counterparties or the arbitrators, and one could tell their reaction, and those reactions tend to be correct. So that kind of information from non-verbal communication is still very useful for the users. And I'm not sure how this can be achieved through virtual hearings. And my hope is that the development of telepresence technology in the near future would resolve this issue so that for us users it would be more convenient and have more options how to conduct arbitration.
Thank you, Harada-san, for your interesting observation. I do share your comments that non-verbal information is so useful and so rich. But at the same time, it's interesting to see how international arbitration has transformed thanks to its flexibility. And we now understand that physical hearing facility like JIDRC can offer many services, not only the physical hearing, but also hearing facility per se, but also IT platforms. And I understand that JIDRC has put together some protocol to be utilized by users of JIDRC to facilitate the virtual hearing. Perhaps, Yoshi, can you share this point?
Actually, we JIDRC, as the committee of web hearing study group, we have been confirming that the JIDRC has already equipped the nicely, efficiently facilitated with those hard aspects. And then soft aspect we are now studying on for the possible protocol for the how to proceed with the such virtual hearing, including like how to avoid like witness examinations, to coaching behind the video camera or something, and also how to proceed with the interpretations and how to proceed with the efficient objection or something like that. So such kind of those soft aspect would be quite important, and we are now discussing that. And also as the possible hub for the international arbitration platform, the JIDRC has already kind of agreed with the some international arbitration institutions for efficient proceeding. So I think and believe the JIDRC can function as the nice multi-jurisdictional platform as a hub place, I think.
Thank you very much. In spite of the fact that I, came late to the panel session, I think we have heard very useful discussions and input from each panelist based on their rich experience. So unless anyone would like to make comments, the last remarks, I would like to conclude the panel session thanking the organizers for organizing this wonderful hybrid event, which demonstrates the capability of JIDRC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ohara Sensei and the panelists for the condensed but fruitful discussion. So, the event is approaching the end. Mr. Tadashi Ara, President of the Japan Federation of Bar Associations, will give a closing remark. Hara Sensei, please.
皆さんありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to express my appreciation and speak in my humble English, if I may.
Thank you very much for attending the opening ceremony of the JIDRC today. Also, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the speakers and coordinators who made today's discussion so stimulating and informative, and those who sent a message of congratulations. As you know, the event was originally scheduled to be held in Toranomon, Tokyo in March this year. Upon completion of this facility, however, unfortunately, it was cancelled due to the impact of the rapidly spreading COVID-19 pandemic. I am pleased that today, 7 months later, the event was finally held and the facility was unveiled. As introduced in today's webinar, this ADR center is equipped with the latest facilities, and it is also suitable for online arbitration, which is becoming popular under the COVID-19 pandemic. Originally, we would have liked all of you to come to Tokyo and experience the charm of this facility together. However, even in the current situation, where it is not easy to move around, we would still like to encourage people to use JIDRC Tokyo, which has the newest online facilities to solve international disputes. We, the JFBA, are committed to undertaking many more initiatives towards development in legal systems in regard to international arbitration. Acquiring and training legal professionals who are capable of being engaged in international arbitration and dissemination to users, among other improvements. I hope and believe that today's event will serve as an opportunity to strengthen and promote international arbitration. Thank you very much again for attending today.
Thank you, President Ara. Today, we have received 417 applications for participation through Zoom. Okay, so I apologize for the prolongation. We are behind considerably. Many thanks to the speakers and panelists, guests, and the secretariat and staff of the 4 hosting organizations. And of course, to all those participating in this event from Japan and from abroad, all over the world. With this, JIDRC Tokyo opening ceremony and the arbitration day is concluded. Thank you. ありがとうございました。